The first time anyone questioned Pastor Daniel Morrow, nobody listened. That was the frightening part. It wasn't because there was no evidence, or because the accusation made no sense. It was because the entire town had already decided who he was. For more than 20 years, he had been the face of compassion in Ashton Ridge, a quiet community where nearly every family had attended his church at one point or another. He baptized newborns, officiated weddings, visited hospital rooms, and stood beside grieving families at funerals. His sermons were broadcast online, attracting thousands of viewers every week, and donations poured into the church from supporters who believed they were funding a ministry devoted to helping the vulnerable. Parents trusted him with their children without hesitation. Teenagers sought his advice during difficult times. Even local officials publicly praised him for bringing hope to the community. To most people, Daniel Morrow wasn't simply a pastor. He was the last person anyone would ever suspect of hiding a terrible secret. Only one person seemed unwilling to accept the image everyone else believed. His wife, Rebecca, had watched the man behind the pulpit for years, and she noticed things that others ignored. At first, they were small details that could easily be dismissed. Daniel insisted on holding private counseling sessions with teenagers without another adult present. He often returned home long after church activities had ended, offering vague explanations that never quite matched the schedule. Rebecca occasionally noticed children leaving his office looking unusually nervous, avoiding eye contact as they hurried toward waiting parents. Whenever she questioned him, Daniel laughed, accusing her of imagining problems where none existed. He reminded her that ministry required sacrifice and long hours, and she wanted desperately to believe him. Yet the uneasy feeling refused to disappear. As the years passed, the warning signs multiplied. Families quietly transferred to other churches without offering a reason. Youth volunteers who had once seemed enthusiastic suddenly disappeared from church activities altogether. Every now and then Rebecca overheard whispers that stopped the moment she entered a room. She sensed fear hiding beneath polite smiles, but nobody was willing to explain what was happening. Daniel remained as respected as ever, and every successful charity event seemed to strengthen the public's confidence in him. Eventually Rebecca could no longer ignore what she was seeing. She confronted her husband several times, asking why so many meetings with young church members had to remain completely private. Instead of answering, Daniel became angry. He accused her of attacking God's work and claimed Satan was using doubt to destroy their marriage. His words carried enormous weight because he had spent years convincing everyone that he possessed exceptional spiritual wisdom. When Rebecca continued asking questions, Daniel quietly began telling church elders that she was emotionally unstable. He claimed the stress of ministry had affected her mental health and asked them to pray for her. Before long, members of the congregation looked at her with sympathy instead of respect. Some suggested she seek counseling herself. Others politely avoided her altogether. Without realizing it, the people she had worshipped beside for years had become convinced she could no longer be trusted. Feeling isolated, Rebecca started writing everything she observed in a collection of journals. She recorded dates, unusual phone calls, unexplained trips, names of children who suddenly stopped attending church, and conversations that left her deeply unsettled. She had no proof of any crime, only a growing collection of disturbing patterns that refused to fit together. She hoped that one day someone would finally ask the right questions. Until then, the journals remained hidden in a locked drawer inside their bedroom. Years passed in silence. Then one autumn evening everything changed. A 26-year-old former youth member uploaded a video to social media describing painful experiences from years earlier. Speaking calmly and without revealing unnecessary details, the survivor explained that someone the entire town admired had manipulated and abused the trust placed in him. Although no name was mentioned, many people immediately guessed who the story was about. The response was brutal. Thousands accused the survivor of inventing lies for attention. Church members flooded social media defending Pastor Daniel, insisting that anyone making such accusations against a man of God must be motivated by hatred. The video seemed destined to disappear beneath the weight of public disbelief. Instead, something unexpected happened. A second survivor came forward. Then a third. Within 2 weeks, more than a dozen adults, most of whom had never spoken to each other, described remarkably similar experiences from different years. They remembered the same office, the same promises that certain meetings should remain confidential, the same manipulation, and the same fear that nobody would ever believe them. Some had carried the burden for more than 15. Rebecca did not celebrate. She quietly left the courthouse holding one of the journals she had written years earlier, the pages now worn from age and countless sleepless nights. Reporters asked whether she felt vindicated, but she offered only a simple answer. Justice could never return the years that had been stolen from the survivors, or erase the pain carried by families who had trusted the wrong person. What mattered most was that those who had been ignored were finally believed. The church building eventually reopened under new leadership with strict child protection policies, transparent counseling procedures, and independent reporting systems. Attendance was never the same. For many residents, the building became a reminder that appearances can hide uncomfortable truths, and that trust should never replace accountability. Today, the story of Ashton Ridge is remembered not because a respected pastor deceived an entire community, but because survivors found the courage to speak despite knowing they would almost certainly be doubted. Their voices exposed a carefully maintained lie that had survived for decades. And perhaps the most painful lesson of all was that the first person who tried to warn everyone had been standing in plain sight the entire time. No one believed her until it was far too late.